So welcome to Friday's CoffeeCast, and the intention with Friday's CoffeeCast is to give you something to ponder over the weekend, and it might be something hilarious and humorous, but that also has a little gem in it for you, or it may be something hopefully insightful, and the latter is where we're headed today. And today I want to invite you to really consider how you are leveraging, how you are using rituals, rules, and routines in your life. Now, these three are very pertinent for me as someone who was lately diagnosed with ADHD. And one of the books that has really helped me to not just come to terms with being neurodivergent, but to actually see how I can harness its strengths more predictably and more consistently, is a book called Faster Than Normal by Peter Shankman. And I really recommend it to anyone who, adult or, kid who may be, or parent of child who may be wanting to understand a bit more about how to support those with ADHD. And for many, many years, I'd known that I needed more structure. And in previous CoffeeCasts, you'll have heard me explore the concept that structure creates synergy. That is the capacity to do more with less, to create something or be something that is greater than the sum of its parts. And today, I want to talk about perhaps the greatest synergy of all, which I've mentioned before on, these CoffeeCasts many times, and that is flow states. Flow states is where body and mind, and some might say soul and spirit and heart, all align and come together in a single moment of doing and being. And therefore, it's no surprise that Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the Hungarian-American researcher who first explored flow states, termed them the optimal state of human experience. Now, where do rituals, rules, and routines feature in this? Well, one of the things that characterizes the experience of flow states and which supports them to emerge is the capacity for deep focus. And here we start to get a hint, right? Which is that if you can create routines and rituals and operate them using rules that you stick to, well, actually, what you're going to be doing is a number of things. One is you're going to be reducing the amount of cognitive load required in certain circumstances, which can enhance and elevate the chances of you having sufficient brain power and energy and focus for flow states to emerge. Okay, is the first thing. And the second is that actually, since we're talking about a state here, we know that through our words, and Tony Robbins would say our language, our physiology, and our focus, right, that we can prime certain states. And so this is very much the case here, is that if we want to give ourselves the chance to be in flow states, and indeed to actually simply have a life that operates in a way that really works for us, then creating rituals and routines down to the most granular level can be something that is utterly transformative. And I've spoken about how this has played out in my own life, particularly in the process of learning to manage a home, even as I, hit 40, right? It's just never something that I knew how to do. And recently I came across a couple of things. One is the morning routine of Immanuel, or in fact the daily routine of Immanuel Kant. So, a philosopher and thinker who essentially gave birth pretty much to so much of what we think of as science or scientific method in terms of how we think about approaching science itself. And his routine was absolutely locked in, day day out. He did the same things. And the Dalai Lama, whose opinion, perhaps depending on how your take on what happened recently, has either been, utterly diminished or what, but he was asked, what's the secret of happiness? And his answer was routine, right? So, what I invite you to consider is, are there areas in your life where you could really delve deep? You could really get granular with the elements of the routine. And I'm not there yet. But for example, in Kant's example, he always made sure that his servant woke him up by 5 a.m. And he would then sit and drink his morning tea and smoke one pipe of tobacco, like never more than one pipe, and he had these really granular elements to his daily routine. Okay. And there is something you may think, oh, well, that's too restrictive or too, I want freedom and spontaneity. And the two are not mutually exclusive. Having really well locked down rituals and routines does not equate to a lack of freedom, and it may in fact be quite the opposite. So right on the other extreme, like Jocko Willink, who has written one of the best, or a couple of the best books on leadership I've ever come across, Extreme Ownership and the Dichotomy of Leadership. Former Navy SEAL and trainer of Navy SEALs. One of his books is entitled Discipline Equals Freedom, right? So that when we have certain processes, structures, aka rituals and routines in our lives, and we execute them without questioning, it frees up so much energy for us to be able to do the things that really matter. If we don't have to think about the trivialities that we burn unnecessary calories on a daily basis. And I share all of this not because I've actually got this sorted yet. I share this because I know it's something that's so vital to me and for me, and because it's something where even my tentative steps in the right direction are already bearing significant fruit. And I finally want to share something about ritual, because ritual carries with it also connotations of the sacred. And if we really want to get kind of ninja and advanced level on this, that's what I would invite. And indeed, a lot of the kind of meditation schools that you might come across will talk about doing each thing with absolute presence of mind, that doing the washing up, or in my case, folding my laundry. These can be not just meditations, but these can be even sacred rituals, where the actions themselves can be, if you like, in kind of, when I spent some time in India, the worship is called puja. It's where you give offerings, right? You might give offerings of sweets or flowers, right? But even an act like folding a piece of laundry can be a puja, can be an offering to a deity. And so, how might your life be different if the mundane tasks that right now frustrate you and burn calories through being frustrating, and indeed that you have to think about, how might things change if they were ritualized? If they became sacred acts of self-care, sacred acts of love. And if you believe in some kind of deity, like sacred offerings to that deity. How different might your daily experience be then? So, a few thoughts on the power of rituals, rules, and routines.